Hey there, it's Jean here in northeastern Ohio, where the little white snowdrops are poking up through the ice and the snow. That's how we know spring is coming here in Ohio. And these little sweet white flowers remind me of how there's so much growth going on beneath the surface, but we just can't see it yet. It's kind of like our children, isn't it? There's so much going on under the surface, but I would say it's even more like ourselves. We are growing and changing all the time, but we just don't really see it much because every day we get up and we do what needs to be done, right? And we don't look all that different from one day to the next. But even if we can't see it, personal growth is happening. It is truly happening. And as I often say to homeschooling parents, we are on a journey too. And that's why I created a program called Inner Work Journey. And today, I just want to tell you a little bit about it because we can all benefit from the practice of looking at our internal environment with just a little less judgment. Over and over again, when I'm talking to homeschooling parents, whether it's in a one-on-one session or my group coaching program, Inspired at Home, when I'm talking to parents about homeschooling, we talk about, how we're teaching our children to learn to read, or we're working on the times tables, we're doing some lesson planning, even talking about chores. But when we have these conversations, it almost always comes back to this homeschooling, this mindset conversation where we realize that we have these thoughts and feelings that kind of get in the way sometimes, right? We may not feel like we're doing enough, or we may not even feel like we are enough, right? But we can change all that because there's always this component of mindset involved in when we're homeschooling, when we do anything, right? There's this component of mindset involved that we can look at and examine and then choose our thoughts more intentionally. Just last week in one of my group coaching calls, one of the moms was saying how true this is in her life. So we were reflecting on how things were going, right? We do this at the beginning of the month and look back on how things went, what challenges we had, what went really well. And what she was saying was the more she practices this reflection, the more she realizes that homeschooling is almost entirely about mindset. It's almost entirely about how we think and feel and how we show up for our children. And what she realized was she's someone who's done inner work journey before, right? Done this program before. And she is realizing how much personal growth she's had by doing this kind of mindset work and realizing how her thoughts and her feelings and her reactions really do affect her ability to homeschool and the outcome of the lessons even. And she was realizing how she can be happy no matter what's going on around her by just starting with a little bit of acceptance and self-compassion. So Parker Palmer wrote a wonderful book called The Courage to Teach. I highly recommend it if you haven't read it. And in it, he talks about the mud within. This is perfect for this time of year, especially here in northeastern Ohio, because as the snow and the ice melt, we often call it mud season, right? So the mud within, because when we are willing to look at that aspect, right? That mud within ourselves, we find that just like a lotus flower, we can bloom in the mud, despite the mud and all the muck and the messiness and everything else. So as Parker Palmer says, this is a quote from Parker Palmer, he says, "Spring teaches me to look more closely within myself and trust the green tendrils of possibility." There is so much possibility inside each of us. And when we explore that inner landscape with just a little more gentleness, a little less harsh judgment, then we can find the surprise and the delight and the compassion more than we realized was even there. And if this is something that interests you, I would love to have you join me. And if you want to delve more into how to accept yourself more, how to nurture your own growth, who you are, how you show up for your children, and stop beating yourself up for whatever it is that you do, those patterns that keep resurfacing over and over again. If you want more of a sense of acceptance of yourself, then please join me for Inner Work Journey 2022. We will start on the equinox, March 20th, and this is a 3-week online experience for heart-centered homeschoolers who really want to acknowledge and embrace this aspect of homeschooling, because homeschooling is not just all about our children and the curriculum, right? This is what I like to call the art of inwardness. It's the work we do to sustain our homeschooling and to help us grow our capacity to handle challenges, to handle complexity, and show up as our best selves, for ourselves, for our children, for our families. In these uncertain and unsettling times, I think it's all the more important that we do this work, this inner work. And doing this work in community can really help us to feel seen and heard and just deeply supported. So each week in the inner work journey, we focus on just one aspect of inner work. So week 1 is self-compassion. Week 2 is self-talk. And week 3 is self-preservation. And each week I'll record a short video message that you can listen to at the beginning of the week, so you can begin, it invites you to begin to think about that topic for the week. And then we gather in small groups online for 90 minutes to practice some inner work techniques and share our experiences, our insights, our aha moments. If you have any questions at all, please do message me, because I'm happy to answer your questions. And if this is something that is speaking to you right now, I really hope that you'll join us. And we start, like I said, on the equinox. You can find all the details and registration information at artofhomeschooling.com/innerworkjourney. I hope that you will join me so that we can take a peek at what's just underneath the surface in your life and guard those tender shoots as they grow. Thanks for joining me.